Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Ato Panford of Koranteng Koranteng Legal Advisors. I'm the managing partner of the firm, and we welcome you today to our webinar on the readiness of SMEs for the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Koranteng Koranteng Legal Advisors is a law firm, commercial law firm in Accra, Ghana, and our expertise is generally in energy, oil and gas, capital markets, mergers and acquisitions, banking and finance, agribusiness, and we do have a specific focus on SMEs and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, as well as company secretarial services and other practice areas. Now, this afternoon, we chose to use the particular theme today due to the topical issue that the AFCFTA is in Ghana at the moment, especially as the AFCFTA Secretariat is based here in Accra, Ghana. So on that note, I will lead you to our moderator, Bridget Agyei, who is an associate of the firm, to lead you through this webinar. And we thank you very much for participating and joining us today.
Hi, Efwa. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Bridget Agyei, and I am an associate with Continental Koranteng Legal Advisors. We welcome you all to our webinar, which is on the readiness of SMEs for the African Continental Free Trade, popularly called the AFCFTA. As we may all be aware, Ghana, together with 23 countries, have signed onto the AFCFTA, which has the potential to create one of the largest free trade markets in the world, considering the number of countries participating in it. In Ghana, small medium enterprises, that is SMEs, are significant contributors to our gross domestic products and a source for creating jobs in the country. Thus, with the implementation of AFCFTA, there is a huge opportunity for Ghanaian SMEs to expand their businesses by scaling up by virtue of accessing the larger African countries, or the African markets, sorry. At Continental Koranteng Legal Advisors, we recognize this opportunity available for SMEs, and hence we have identified some key agencies in Ghana that are working together to see the implementation of the AFCFTA, as well as support SMEs to reap the benefits of the AFCFTA and to allow SMEs develop capabilities that will be needed to service the AFCFTA market. So this afternoon, we have 3 speakers for this session. Our first speaker is from the AFCFTA Secretariat in Ghana. Our second speaker is from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And our third speaker is from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, that is the GIPC. Our speakers will generally speak on the perspective of AFCFTA, opportunities available to SMEs, and they will each look at the roles of their various institutions in Ghana in implementing the AFCFTA. We hope that by the end of the session, in our own ways, we would all appreciate the value of what these institutions are creating to support the implementation of AFCFTA. I would like to again welcome our speakers, and to our audience, please enjoy the session, and we look forward to your questions via the question dialogue that you will see on your screens. At the end of the session, the speakers will answer our questions, and then, enjoy the session. So our first speaker on here is Dr. Talkmore Chidede. Now, Dr. Chidede is an investment expert at the AFCFTA Secretariat. He has extensively published and advised on international investment law, international trade law, African regional economic integration, and international commercial arbitration. Dr. Talkmore holds a Doctor of Laws degree in International Investments Law from the University of Western Cape, South Africa, as well as a Master of Law degree in International Trade and Investments Law, and a Bachelor of Laws degree from both the University of Fort Hare in South Africa. Welcome, Dr. Talkmore. You have 20 minutes with our audience, and we look forward to your presentation with us. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope everyone else can hear Dr. Talkmore.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I'd like to thank Koranteng Koranteng Legal Advisors for inviting the AFCFTA Secretariat to be part of this discussion. So I'll be brief. I'll try to make sure that I stick to the time limits, and I'll also won't be able to stay for the entire time of the session because I'm in another meeting. So I just stepped out for the sake of this webinar. So first of all, let me just give you a general perspective of the AFCFTA, what it is. So it's one of the flagship projects of the African Union Agenda 2063, whose aim is to boost intra-Africa trade, which is currently perceived to be between 15 to 18%, which is very low as compared to other regions across the world. And the AFCFTA aims to create a single market for goods and services, which is liberalized. And it's a market between all the 55 member states of the African Union. It also aims to eliminate or reduce non-tariff barriers and tariff barriers to trade. It's a rules-based arrangement which comprises of various legal instruments constituted in the agreement establishing the FCFTA protocols as well as annexes, and there is a dispute settlement mechanism where state parties are supposed to use when it sets out the rules and procedures for settling disputes between member states in as far as the rights and their obligations under the FCFTA agreement are concerned. So in terms of the scope of the AFCFTA is quite expansive. So it covers trade in goods, trade in services, investment, intellectual property rights, competition policy, and now also including digital trade as well as women and youth in trade. There is a high level of political will in terms of the AFCFTA wanting to operationalize it across the continent. We have seen that if you trace the background of the negotiations and what we have achieved and where we are at the moment, you can see that there is a high level of political will. The presidents, the ministers, they are determined, committed to make sure that we operationalize this flagship project. So the negotiations of the AFCFTA were launched in 2015. And then in March 2018, the agreement establishing the AFCFTA was signed. So it was the agreement, which is the constituent act, and the three protocols. So the protocol on trade in goods, the protocol on trade in services, and the protocol on the rules and procedures for settling disputes within the AFCFTA. So these were the 4 legal instruments that were signed in 2018. And the agreement entered into force on the 30th of May 2019. So this was after the deposit of the 22nd instrument of ratification. And then in December 2020, so the member state, the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union declared to start trading under the AFCFTA as of 1st of January 2021. but based on legally implementable rules of origin, reciprocal tariff schedules, as well as customs declaration. So the negotiations of the AFCFTA have been divided into two. So we have phase 1 and phase 2 issues. So phase 1 covered trade in goods and trade in services. Then the rest of the other issues that I've mentioned, investment, IPR, competition policy, digital trade, women and youth in trade, they now form part of phase 2. And in phase 1 issues, there are still outstanding issues, particularly the rules of origin and tariff schedules. They are still to be finalized, and these are the nuts and bolts of trade. For trade to happen, there must be rules of origin. For cross-border trade, under the AFCFTA to happen, there must be rules of origin, which determines the nationality of products, and also tariff schedules, which shows the tariffs that have been agreed by state parties, or preferential tariffs that have been agreed with by the state parties. So the deadline that we've been given this year is to make sure that we finalize phase 1 issues, the rules of origin and tariff schedules, as well as trading service. I will come back to some of the progress that we've made in some of these areas later when I discuss the elimination of tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. So we have to finalize by June. And then for phase 2 issues, they are also negotiated simultaneously with the phase 1 issues, outstanding issues. And the deadline for phase 2 is September 2022. The AFCFTA Secretariat is one of the institutions of the AFCFTA. So it's established in accordance with Article 13 of the main agreement. And it's based in Accra, as mentioned in the introduction. It's based in Accra. And what are the roles and functions of this institution? We are an administrative organ of the AFCFTA. And part of our responsibilities is to facilitate the negotiations and the implementation of the AFCFTA legal instruments. We are also charged with providing technical support and capacity building to member states during the negotiations and the implementation of the AFCFTA. So coming back to I want to address briefly the issue of the main agreement and how it promises to address or to eliminate tariff barriers. So the agreement is designed to eliminate tariffs and non-tariff barriers, as well as barriers to trade in services. So there are dedicated instruments that speak to the elimination of tariffs, non-tariff barriers, particularly in the protocol in trade in goods and protocol in trade in services. And if you look at the nature of the negotiations, so if you read the general objectives, which are set out in Article 3 and 4 of the main agreement, the FCFTA agreement, you realize that the elimination is not going to be immediate. It's going to be progressive. So it's a progressive liberalization of trade in goods and trade in services. So the ultimate goal in the tariffs is to make sure that the trade between and among state parties is eliminated. 97% of the tariff lines are reduced to zero. But this is not going to happen overnight. So it's a phased down approach. So the first 90% is going to be liberalized within a period of 5 years for developing countries, and least developed countries have asked for a longer period of liberalization. So for the 90%, instead of doing 5 years, they've asked for 10 years. And the 7%, which is this 7% includes products that are designated by state parties as sensitive products. So these are sensitive products that member states are not going to liberalize or reduce tariffs immediately. So they will ask for a longer period of time. So for developing countries, they will eliminate or reduce these this 7% over a period of 10 years. And for least developed countries, they will reduce, they will eliminate these tariffs over a period of 13 years. So the 3%, because of issues around industrialization, food security, on all the other issues that member states have raised in terms of tariff liberalization. So there's going to be a 3% that is going to be excluded totally from tariff liberalization. So over a 13-year period, which means 97% of the tariff lines are going to come down to zero. And as I mentioned, that the negotiations on rules of origin are still ongoing, but we've made significant progress at the moment because we have managed to finalize or conclude about 87.3% for the tariff lines, 87% tariff lines. Their rules of origins have concluded. There are some still outstanding and very sensitive issues that we're still trying to finalize, and hopefully by June we would have concluded the negotiations. And then on the tariff liberalization, so member states, state parties and non-state parties have submitted their offers. So we have 44 countries at the moment that have submitted their initial offers. So what happens is when a state party or non-state party submits its tariff offers to say, this is what I'm offering under the FCFTA. These are the products that I'm going to liberalize for over a period of 5 years or 10 years if I'm an LDC, or 7% for 10 years or 13 years if I'm an LDC. They submit, and then there's a technical verification process that happens. So the technical verification is done by the AFCFTA Secretariat. So the main purpose of the technical verification is to assess whether the offer that has been submitted by a state party or non-state party complies with the negotiating modalities or complies with the requirements of the protocol on trade in goods. So basically, you're trying to understand whether this offer meets the threshold, and this country with its offer is ready to start to trade under the FCFTA in accordance with the requirements, the specified requirements. So of the 44 countries that have submitted, 35 so far have complied. So which means they are ready to trade. We have come up with a Ministerial Directive which complies with the variable geometry principle outlined in Article 5 of the agreement, to say those that are ready can move ahead. So the Ministerial Directive is to allow countries that are ready to trade to go ahead, and those that are still finalizing or trying to make sure that they meet the threshold of 90%, 7%, and 3%, they will join later once they are finished. So 35 have complied, they are ready to trade at the moment. So if all goes well and the rules of origin are finalized, hopefully by June, we'll see commercially meaningful trade happening under the AFCFTA. Then on the trading services front, so the trading services front, we also have the nuts and bolts, which are the specific commitments on schedules of commitment for services. So these are the commitments that that state parties and non-state parties have agreed to, or will have to present to say, in these sectors, these are my commitments when it comes to liberalizing trading services, or I will liberalize this much, and these are the conditions in the areas that I have liberalized. So in the trading services as well, as I mentioned, it's progressive. So instead of starting with all the services sectors, member states have decided to first start with 5 priority sectors, to say these are the key. So they have identified key sectors that are essential to achieve the immediate objectives of the AFCFTA. So they've come up with five sectors, which is financial services, communications, tourism, business, and transport. And in total, they constitute approximately 180 subsectors. And once they finalize the conclusion, they're going to add more sectors to the negotiations on trading services. So in terms of numbers, so we have 47 countries that have submitted their offers. So the offers is what they have to be verified by the Secretariat. So they are being verified, and most of them, they have already complied with the regulations, with the requirements of the trading services liberalization as stipulated in the protocol. And we hope if we continue with this pace, by June, we've set up quite a number of meetings until June to make sure that we finalize and meet the deadline. Then coming back to issues of non-tariff barriers. So there's been a realization among state parties to say that what's hindering trade between African countries is not specifically the tariff barriers. There are non-tariff barrier issues which these invisible obstacles, unnecessary regulations, border delays, things that are happening behind and at the border, which make conducting business across borders more difficult and costly. And these are the things that hinder trade more as compared to tariffs. Why? Because if you look at the regional economic communities, they have gone as far as liberalizing. For example, in SADC, they've liberalized over 85% of the tariffs. But you look at the intra-SADC trade is still very limited as compared even to other regions. This has happened, but they did not focus on addressing non-tariff barriers. So the protocol on trade in goods includes quite a number of dedicated annexes, which aimed at addressing these NTB issues through cooperation, coordination, and harmonization of trade facilitation procedures. So, for example, it includes, the protocol focuses on the elimination of NTBs, enhancing the efficiency of customs procedures, trade facilitation and transit issues, etc. So it includes annexes, quite a number of, about 4 annexes, one on customs cooperation and mutual administrative assistance. There's one on trade facilitation, there's one on transit, and one on the NTB. So let me just elaborate on the annex on NTB. So the annex on NTB, it focuses on the elimination of non-tariff barriers. And in addition to that, it establishes a mechanism that is designed to identify, report, and eliminate non-tariff barriers. And to describe the process, so this is an online mechanism. It is live as we speak. We have received about four cases already, and 3 of them have been resolved. So what happens with this mechanism is, if you are a business doing trading across border, and then you face some difficulties at the border, what you do is you log in onto the system online, and then you write you write your complaint on this website to say, okay, I'm at the border, this is what has happened, and then the system sends to the focal point. So it comes to the focal point of the mechanism. Then this person decides, okay, this issue is between these 2 governments. And then if it's a REC issue, maybe it's an ECOWAS issue, then it's sent to the regional focal point of the regional economic community. Then from then it's sent to the national focal points, and then they will see moving forward, how can we resolve this? What needs to be done in terms of making sure that we facilitate the movement of goods across the continent. In terms of, so the institution, the FCFTA, we work normally with governments because the FCFTA is a member state driven organization, and we are mainly an administrative organ. So we work very closely with government institutions. For example, we work very closely with the ministries of trade and industry, because these are the negotiators, they come to negotiate, and these are the key institutions at national level when it comes to the implementation. We are also in the process of trying to establish coordination mechanisms with AFCFTA national coordination offices, because we have come up with the idea to say Ghana is already established one which falls under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is housed at the building where we are in Africa Trade House. So because we understand as this institution, they are mainly focused on the AFCFTA and they work closely with private sector. So we try to have a coordination relationship with them to make sure that we reach out whatever that we need, we get from private sector directly through the national coordination offices. We also work with the development partners, for example, with AfriZimbek, where I am at the moment. We are having a workshop on SMEs. So tomorrow there's a session that is going to be dedicated for trade finance for SMEs, focusing on the AFCFTA. And the other platform that we also provide when it comes to ensuring that the process of the AFCFTA is as inclusive as possible is to have engagements with the private sector. For example, in the area of digital trade, which I'm also supporting at the AFCFTA Secretariat, we are going to host this week. I'm not sure if any of you also got a chance to participate. So we had regional consultations, stakeholder consultations with women and youth. So the consultations are mainly to work with the relevant stakeholders on particular issues that are within the AFCFTA, such that they can voice out their concerns and also address, air out some of their views and issues that they might want to be included in the protocols that are yet to be negotiated. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have one on digital trade, where we are engaging relevant stakeholders in the area of digital trade to make sure that we hear their views and we present these views before the committees. So we have established committees that are responsible for negotiating the necessary protocols. Let me pause for now, then I'll come back to answer some of the questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. I hope you are all noting down your questions, and we have gained some knowledge on the AFTA, much more especially the SME conferences that are going to be coming up very soon. I hope you are taking notes of the dates and making yourself available and getting ready to participate in the AFTA for the good of SMEs in the industry. Our next speaker is Honorable Dr. Ato Panford. I'm not, one second, if Dr. Panford. Doctor, can you hear me? Okay, I think we are having issues trying to get Dr. Panford on. Hello, Doc. Okay. Doc should join us in a few seconds, but Honorable Dr. Panford is the Senior Advisor, Enterprise Support Specialist Technical Units at the National Coordinating Office of AFTA. He was a lead consultant and reports to the Minister responsible for trade and on the readiness of the private sector industries and exporters to be registered under the AFTA protocols for strategic support through technical interventions to the Ghanaian exporters through technical audits of their operations and make recommendations to the Minister for such specific strategic interventions. Honorable Dr. Panford is an industrialist with over 25 years, both in private and public sector experience. He's an astute expert in international trade and commerce in production for export markets, meeting statutory and markets compliance and commitments to promote trade. He led the Western and Central branches of Association of Ghana Industries, and he rose to become the Vice President of AGI SMEs. Honorable Dr. Panford holds a BSc in Mechanical, Marine and Industrial Plant Engineering, MBA in Marketing, and a doctorate in Business Administration. He became a member of the 7th Parliament of Ghana, and he represents the people of Shama constituency in the Western region. He was appointed Vice Chairman of the Select Committee for Trade, Industry and Tourism. Honorable Panford consults for World Bank Group, and he is currently the President's representative on the Takoradi Technical University. He's also sits on the advisory board as a member for Institute for Applied Science and Technology of the University of Ghana, Legal, which develops and improves technology for the private sector for enhanced production and productivity in industry. We'd like to say welcome to Dr. Panford if he's logged in yet. And I would hand over, Dr. Panford will engage us for 20 minutes. And I urge you all to note your questions and then we'll take them after the session. Welcome, Dr. Panford.
Thank you very much. And then a good afternoon to all the colleagues. Let's say hi to all the panelists and then our members of the meeting board. I think it's very important for us to take note of, this very important topic and try as much as possible to discuss it up, and then find, any challenges thereof, and then make sure that we address them. Thank you. As my profile was mentioned, I've been assigned to go into the enterprises to look at their needs and challenges and then prescribe the appropriate recommendations to the ministry for the ministry's intervention to support the private sector to leverage on this, AFCFTA to ensure that we put our products on the continental market and then make sure that we do business on the continental market. My key consideration that I want us to discuss in respect of the SMEs, we know globally, SMEs are the drivers of all these global, markets and industry. And then as a nation, His Excellency the President, and then the minister responsible for trade and industry have a policy to ensure that we try and then leverage on this after to ensure that our SMEs also become the game players of this whole initiative. On that note, we cannot leave our private sector players just like to trend on their own. So it is very imperative to note that government, and I'm represented by the Ministry of Trade, hereby takes a very strong indication of how to support SMEs to leverage upon this after. And the National Coordinating Office, which has been established, is to facilitate and make sure that we support the private sector, not to leave them to go and fend on their own, but to make sure that the appropriate challenges or bottlenecks are removed and then supported to make sure that we help them to get onto the market. And getting onto the market, one of the key things that we need to realize is about competition. How are our SMEs going to compete with other SMEs producing, let's say, similar or equal products, which the differentiation point will be standardization, conformity, and etc. So we need to go into these SMEs to try and then help them to make sure that they comply with most of the standards that will be required to make sure that a product or a service meets the requirement for the international or the global market. Now here, our focus is on our SMEs, because they are the main key. 85% of our economy is being driven by our SMEs. So if we want to make sure that our industries, SME industries are being, are leading the agenda for Ghana, then we need to help them to make sure that we prepare them to get onto the continental market. Thankfully, I must say that, I have been, appointed to take charge with a lot of some other, consultants behind me to look into these, sectors of the industry, taking care into our national industrialization agenda, that is the 10 key point agenda, industrialization agenda, focusing on the strategic anchor industries, that is agro-processing, pharmaceuticals, etc., etc. But by then, how do we get there? We need to delve down deep into the operations and see what challenges are there. And by that, we carry on up and assigned to carry out enterprise audits to ensure that all the challenges of these our SMEs or enterprises that we want to support comes out, so that we'll be able to support them to make sure that they leverage upon to do that. Now, one of the key things for competition onto this African continental free trade area, the market, is all based upon quality and standards. And then if let's say your pharmaceuticals are meeting the right standards and etc., then you know that you're a game player. And so the game changer here is making sure that conformity standards and branding, right branding, keeps onto the market with the support that our FSMEs need. So if we go back to look at the budget statement for the 2022, it is quietly indicated that 180 companies has been selected, that's the SMEs has been selected to be supported to make sure that they take advantage of this AFTA. So our focus now is on the 180 companies that I've started working on with my team. And then so far, roughly almost about a third have been done. We're still on the field working seriously to make sure that we complete the exercise. Let's say latest by the close of next month we should be. But then equally as we are working with these enterprises, the challenges, if they need Ghana Standards Board authorization, Ghana Standards authorities assistance, or Food and Drugs authorities assistance, we go in there, and as we all partner them as government agencies, we make recommendations to them to assist these enterprises, to equip them, prepare them, and make sure that they comply with all what the requirements of the market need. And these are the things that we're doing. And this is being sponsored by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is government support to our SMEs. I believe that some might take time, because if you want to install quality systems on your production line, that will take a little bit of time, because you need to take data, for auditors to come and audit again and make sure that then the systems certification will be done. We are in collaboration also with the banking sector, who are now going to be our banking, participating financial institutions, that we will be looking at how we support them with a little bit of, our SMEs, with a little bit of, finance, which they're required to do their exports and etc. So we have about 3 or 4 thematic areas of funding or financing for these SMEs, which we will be touching on CAPEX issues, be touching on, export finance, that is capital for meeting your export orders and etc. So these are all designed that we are having all these, arrangement with the agencies, the banking institutions, or etc., to make sure that we support the SMEs to get there. And the bottom line is that when I complete the audit and make the recommendations to the ministry, here the most key thing is that the company will be registered as a certified, after qualified, exporter. Thereby, ICOMS gives, or the GRA customs onto the ICOMS system, generates a unique code for the business to use it to do its business in terms of exporting onto the African continental market. And when I do this recommendation to the ministry, there is a standby team who comes to the company or the enterprise and to ensure that, really everything is also intact, and then they give you the certification. What happens normally is that the team composed of membership of the Ministry of Trade. You have Ghana Chamber of Commerce, that the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is part. We have, GRA also part, and etc. So they all come as a team to make sure that these enterprises are registered, and from there, then the gate opens for you to start doing business. But now, most of these SMEs that are exporting, some are exporting to Europe, in the United States, and some are also exporting under ECOWAS, under the ETLS. But then now the window or the door is open wider for them to be onto the continental market, which, whatever challenges used to be there, now we've cleared most of them. We started with bilaterals, and then every African country signed upon and now responding positively to be able to do business across the African continent. I think that this is a very important point for us to look at it carefully and strengthen our SMEs to take this advantage. But our offices are located within African trade hubs, for SMEs who also want to join or look at us, considering them, can come and then see us, and then we'll add them onto it, because it's a continuous exercise that we are doing there. And I believe with this little bit of introduction, it will keep most of our SMEs hooked up onto the agenda that we're pushing to industrialize, Ghana, and make sure that we open market for them under the AFCFTA arrangements. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Panford.
Hello.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. I guess we're happy to know, or to have some of the SMEs on here who are already implementing the AFTA. For most of the SMEs, I hope that the key thing you mentioned on here was quality and standard. And so we look forward to Ghana having one of the best qualities and standards on the market. And this has been very informative, and thank you very much, Dr. Panford. Our next speaker on here is Eugenia Okyere. Eugenia heads the research and business development of Ghana's lead investment promotion agency, that is the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, the GIPC. Eugenia is influencing the center's performance and policies related to foreign direct investments through investment targeting, facilitation services, and content creation, while proposing investment promotion best practices through her work, especially after her 1 year with the University of Manchester studying development, economics, and policy under the prestigious Chevening Scholarship Awards. Eugenia has an MBA in Corporate Strategy and Economic Policy from the Maastricht School of Management, Netherlands, and a bachelor's degree from the University of Ghana in Mathematics and Computer Science. She's also the focal person for coordinating GIPC's external relations with donor bodies. With 14 years experience at the GIPC, Eugenia has been key in promoting GIPC's opportunities and producing the center's promotional tools, including sector profiles and the GIPC's quarterly investment reports. Eugenia is currently leading her dynamic and proactive team to assist local businesses find suitable partnerships with foreign counterparts and attract investments to achieve the 70% contribution from private sector for the 100 billion Ghana Cares program, and supports the GIPC in making Ghana the hub for investments in Africa, and as well to drive the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, even as we progress with the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade. We are happy to have Eugenia join us this afternoon, and Eugenia will share 20 minutes of her time speaking on the various inputs that GIPC is making towards the AFTA, as well as incorporating our SMEs with the AFTA. Thank you, and over to you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Bridget, and a good afternoon to you all. And I bring greetings from the GIPC and the CEO, Mr. Grant. To you, Koranteng and Koranteng Legal Advisors, we thank you for inviting us to be part of this webinar. We are particularly pleased to be given this platform to share our thoughts on the theme of readiness of SMEs for the AFCFTA, which will be relevant to the various initiatives being carried out by the AFCFTA Secretariat and other mandated entities to ensure the success of AFCFTA for countries on the continent, including Ghana, the host nation of the Secretariat. The AFCFTA has been considered by many as promising and strongly aligned with goals and objectives that systematically conditions efficient production and distribution chains across the continent. For decades, Africa has not had low levels of interregional trade, estimated at 17%, compared to other continents such as Europe with 69%, Asia with 56%, North America with 31%. This predicament mirrors economic vulnerability and subscribes the African economy to vigorous implications of global trade wars, economic depressions, and global political crisis. As such, the existence and operationalization of the AFCFTA is possibly the best economic framework, as this will foster prosperity and fulfill its obligation in creating a dynamic regional integration that underpins the realization of high productivity and investments. As deliberations on the free trade area continue at various levels, it is imperative that stakeholders recognize the importance of SMEs and how their activities can be guided and supported for the benefit of economic growth and the achievement of the SDGs. SMEs in Africa, according to UNCTAD, form about 90% of businesses on the continent, and they are key stakeholders accounting for 60% of the employed working population. The creation of a unified market of approximately 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion presents diverse and unique opportunities to SMEs to expand and address difficulties with global and regional value chain disconnects. As such, an active participation of SMEs in the AFCFTA is a comprehensive strategy to enhance economies of scale, healthy competition, FDI inflows, and poverty reduction. Due to the important role played by SMEs in the economy, the greatest responsibility lies on governments of member states to design policy frameworks and programs which increase the readiness of its SMEs to effectively take advantage of the opportunities of the free trade area. In Ghana, government recognizes the private sector led by SMEs as the engine for development. It has embarked on several policies and programs in support of the AFCFTA, of the private sector. Some of these include the 10-point industrial transformation agenda and even the Digital Ghana Agenda program. All these initiatives and several others are copiously covered under the 100 billion Ghana cedi COVID alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support program being implemented by government to mitigate the impacts of the COVID and speed up the recovery and transformation of the Ghanaian economy, while supporting government's goal to leverage the AFCFTA to make Ghana a financial, manufacturing, and trade hub. The GIPC is retooling and refocusing its operations to better support local enterprises without neglecting foreign counterparts. The GIPC's investment promotion strategy includes initiatives to transform SMEs' production capability, ability to compete, ability to innovate, ability to export, and most importantly, knowledge of opportunities of the AFCFTA. Through the center's events such as the Young Entrepreneurs Forum and our prestigious regional sensitization tours that we organize, the GIPC reaches out to SMEs to provide first-hand support by profiling projects for partnerships and funding, as well as for business linkages. SMEs also benefit from capacity building programs through our partner support and funding agreements. They are also supported through our policy advocacy engagements with other government agencies to address and resolve their challenges. They are also supported with access to service providers. In fulfilling our role of investment facilitation, the GIPC also offers a variety of incentives to businesses, which ease the financial burden on these businesses and minimize costs for profit maximization. In the West African region, the GIPC incentive regime is undoubtedly one of the best for both domestic and international investors. These incentives include reduced excise duties for increasing use of local raw materials, import duty exemptions on equipment, guarantee against expropriation, granting of automatic immigrant quotas, time-bound working permits, as well as local incentives that are provided to businesses. Notwithstanding government's commitments and efforts to SMEs, it is imperative businesses in the industry position themselves to boost production and the export markets in the context of the AFTA. Some of these actions include registering with the GIPC to benefit from the incentives the GIPC offers, participating in some of our events and programs, and taking advantage of such events to network and build business linkages, opening up to the center on challenges being faced for them to be addressed, liaising with the relevant government's regulatory institutions, making projects available to the center for profiling and promotion, availing themselves for capacity building, investing in the acquisition of proper knowledge of financial management to ensure credit transparency, and investing in production of quality products and packaging that meets international standards and allows them to easily penetrate markets and ultimately address the nation's export objectives. Finally, focusing on value addition rather than the export of raw materials. The GIPC will continue in its bid to support SMEs through foreign partnerships by matching SMEs to foreign investors through our investment promotion missions, and specifically through B2B engagements, as well as through sector focus and investment targeting efforts. We therefore encourage SMEs and businesses to take advantage of the limitless opportunities available for growth and expansion through the GIPC, to grow in Ghana and grow with Ghana, leveraging Ghana's position as the gateway to investment in Africa, as well as to ensure their readiness for AFTA opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eugenia. Thank you to all our panelists. At this point, we hope that the benefits of the AFTA has clearly been outlined, and also the session has given our audience the insights we need for AFTA, specifically for our SMEs, and they are getting properly aligned as to how to adopt AFTA. I will go through the questions we have received so far, and we will direct the questions at our panelists who will give us answers to some of the questions we have received. I have a question from Monica. Monica says, given that the African countries have economies of mostly similar DNA, does the AFTA have measures to combat dumping and undercutting of local industry? I would read the question again. Given that African countries have economies of mostly similar DNA, does the AFTA have measures to combat dumping and undercutting of local industry? I don't know if Dr. Chidede would help us, and maybe we can have Honorable Dr. Panford add on to that.
Thank you very much, Bridget. And thank you, Monica, for such a very important question. I rarely get this type of questions in some of the panels that I normally speak on. This is a very critical issue that really needs to be addressed. Yeah, so we do have the FCFTA agreement. He has legal provisions that provide for measures on how to deal with dumping and all those other problems that you've mentioned. So we do have in international trade, we do have what we call trade defense instruments. So trade defense instruments that are designed to address issues around unfair trade practices that result from trade liberalization. So as part of these instruments, we do have anti-dumping duties, countervailing measures, and as well as the safeguard measure. So with the anti-dumping measures, they are mainly aimed at addressing when there's dumping. So for example, if a country is selling a product in the export market at a lower price than it is, the lower price than it is in the exporting country. So it's the price that is being sold in the exporting market is lower than the price that it takes for it costs to produce in the exporting market, right? So that's dumping. So in that case, and the dumping is causing material injury to the importing country. So it causes material injury to the like industry in the importing country. So in that case, a country is allowed to impose anti-dumping measures to address dumping. So you raise your tariffs such that you block these these imports from being dumped into your country. Then we do have countervailing measures. So countervailing measures mainly to address issues where subsidized products are being exported and causing damage to the local industry. So in that case, you also countervail these measures. You adopt measures that are aimed at addressing such unfair trade practices. Then we also have safeguard measures. So safeguard measures are mainly to address where, as a result of you liberalizing trade, for example, you make some commitment under the AFCFTA, you reduce your tariffs. Then as a result of that, because some other countries are very competitive and advanced, they now bring so many, there's an import surge into your market. And then this import surge is causing serious injury to the domestic industry of the same products, like products. So you are now allowed to raise duties or to impose safeguard measures, but they are temporary. For that allows you to make sure that you also give some incentives or help your local industry from avoiding it from being injured by these import strategies. But it looks good on paper. To be honest, it looks good on paper, and as I'm speaking, it's not an easy task. So even in the WTO, even in the regional economic communities trading arrangements, we do have these mechanisms that are embedded in the trade-related legal instruments. But the challenge is the implementation of these measures, they happen at the national level. So these are matters of national legal systems. So you must have a legislation that allows so you have to have a legal system, you have to have an institution that is capable or that is well equipped to deal with these issues, because it involves investigation, and it's an honorary exercise which requires, and it's a very costly one, which requires very deep technical expertise, because you're doing investigations, you have to present evidence and all that. But in most of the countries, mostly in Africa, some of the countries have legal systems, but they don't have functioning institutions. And I think we only have 2 countries so far across the continent that have well-functioning national investigating authorities for trade remedies, which is South Africa and Egypt. Some countries, they have the legislation, but they don't have the functioning instrument. So already there's a gap. You might have the legal system at the international level, which is in the trade agreement. Then we might have the legislation. But if there is no institution that is capable of doing that, then this is something that is, so there's already a gap. So what we are trying to do is, and in the AFCFTA, there's a trade remedies annex, which is an annex number 9 of the Trade and Goods Protocol. So it lays out these rules, but so far we are developing regulations, and we're also trying to make sure that the regulation that we are developing, they also help all those countries that do not have institutions such that they develop their capability, they develop their skills or institutions. There's technical assistance and capacity building such that the institutions at national level will be able to implement these measures. And this is the only way that we can be able to make use of the trade remedies and to ensure that the AFCFTA does not, trading under the AFCFTA does not cause unfair practices that is going to hinder the local industry. Because what we envisage or what we hope for in the AFCFTA is to make sure that the trade that is happening also boosts the local industry, because these are the industries that will create sustainable development. So if they grow and become competitive at the regional and the continental level, they also become competitive at the global level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Chidede. I don't know if Dr. Panford would like to add anything to that. Okay, so our next question is from Annette Smith. Annette says, how are the SMEs prepared to enter the regional markets? How are they selected? And are the SMEs built for this venture? I think Dr. Panford would help out with this question. Hi, Dr. Panford. Okay, so I will take the next question, and when Dr. Panford is on with us, I will direct that question to him. I don't know if Dr. Chidede, would you have something to say about that? Sorry, Dr. Chidede, you are muted.
I'll leave that question because I'm trying to respond to some of the questions here.
Okay.
I think Dr. Panford would be the best person to respond to that.
All right, thank you. Our third question is from Ama Obese Jektai. Ama says, she asks, please, how will the Pan-African payment system aid the achievements of the AFTA goals? And what are the legal implications of the use of PAPs and facilitating trade in Africa?
Okay, I'll try to respond to that. So the Pan-African payments and settlement system, what it aims to achieve is to make sure that businesses continue to do business and be able to pay through their local currency. So for example, I'm in Zimbabwe and I'm trying to do business with a company in Ghana. I don't have to convert my currency to the US dollar. Then from US dollar, it comes to, it's converted again to Ghana cedis. So it's a platform that has been created to make sure that businesses will continue to pay and do businesses with their local currency. So if I'm a business and I want to buy something from a company in Ghana, I have to talk to my bank, and then my bank who's already on the platform, on this PAPS platform, who also liaise it, so I send my request to the bank, then the bank sends the request to the PAPS, then PAPS contacts the other business on the other side, their bank or any other financial institution. Then, so it's an exchange that you send the money, then the money is received in the local currency. There is no exchange or going to the US dollar, then coming back to the local currency. Then in terms of the legal implication, what is happening? So the PAPS has been launched. It was first tested in 5 countries within West Africa, and now it has been launched across the continent. And so companies or other payment platforms that are existing across the continent, they are going to be partner or implementing partners with PAPS. So it's going to create interoperability of systems where countries will continue to do business, but using their local currency. You don't have to use US dollars. You don't have to convert your currency to any other currency outside the continent. So they are busy signing at the moment. Afreximbank and the AFCFTA, they are busy working on the legal documents to make sure that the implementation of the PAPS platform is in accordance, because it works with the central banks. So the central banks are going to play a very key role, because they are the ones that deal with foreign currency exchanges in countries. So we are not bypassing them by PAPS. PAPS is going to provide a platform. So it's going to sign some legal contracts, some legal arrangements with central banks and other institutions to make sure that whatever is happening, or whatever contracts that are settlements that are happening between these businesses, they are legal and they don't cause any legal challenges that might derail the objectives or the purpose of PAPS.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Chidede. Our next question is, given that the cost of transferring goods is very high in Africa as compared to other continents due to the fact that most of the goods are transported on road, what are the specific measures that the AFCFTA is putting in place to address this issue?
I think I've answered some of these questions when I was doing the presentation, especially the implementation of trade facilitation issues. So you look at the transity, annex on transity, the annex on trade facilitation. So it's mainly to ensure that all these hurdles that are causing businesses to be costly or transportation costs to be very high are addressed, because you'd find that some of the challenges are not necessarily because the transport from moving one to the place, if there are no delays, if there are no other hurdles in between the route. So it's mainly the costs at the border, the costs across the way. So these provisions or these legal instruments, they are mainly or designed to address that. Instead of having two borders clearing the same goods, we can have a single window, or the goods can be cleared at the same on once from one side, then you move freely, then there are no other charges that are going to come, or even if in terms of waiting at the border. So you'd realize that, for example, we did a study in 2018 where we realized one of the busiest borders in Southern Africa, between South Africa and Zimbabwe, Beitbridge, that the cost of just parking your truck that's loaded at the border, you are being charged $300 a day. And because it's congested, so you'd realize that a truck would spend 2 weeks at the border and it's being charged every day. Then what are the solutions? So it's not the charge of transporting the goods, but it's the charge of the procedures that are taking forever. Then in terms of doing that, what are the necessary procedures or trade facilitation issues that need to be addressed? So one of the issues that can be addressed or is being proposed is to make sure that we do have trade facilitation for clearance of documents, that you have pre-clearance of your documents, or you can submit electronic documents before you get to the border. By the time you get to the border, everything else is addressed, everything else is being signed. It's just a matter of following the procedure that is not going to delay. So these are some of we can discuss more of these issues for a day, because it's about 4 annexes that are outlining some of these issues that are being asked in this webinar.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chidede. I think we have Dr. Panford in here now, so I would repeat the question from Annette Smith. She says, how are the SMEs prepared to enter the regional markets? How are they selected, and are the SMEs built for this venture?
Yes, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Right.
I think we all can.
Very well. Thank you. And then thank you for the question. I think there are 2 phases to this question. One basic thing is that, is there any cost attached to the selection? Let me be very blunt here and say that the ministry has taken care of all the costs. That's what even we, the consultants, do. And so there's no cost to the enterprise that we are going to be auditing to make sure that they are export ready. In fact, the whole bottom line is that we are trying to determine the enterprises that are export ready. And when we mean export ready, that do they have the products or services that are okay, that meets all the conformities. And then by that standards, and then also we look onto other areas that, if the packaging is okay and everything, then the rules of origin, which determines your source of raw material necessary in the production. So we take into consideration all these things in doing the selection. So for example, let me give you a very simple example. If an SME imports any good and says it's a raw material for his production, the question at the bottom line here that we try to find out is that, has there been any mechanical, biological, or physical transformation of the raw material from one stage to the other to the final product? How do we determine that? The material that was imported or was brought in as a raw material has a harmonized systems code from the customs. And the finished product is expected to have another different, harmonized system code, which means the product or the raw material that was brought in has moved into serious, transformation, which value has been added, and not also just, importing a raw material and or picking up a raw material and then exporting it in the raw state. For example, you pick up the fruit and vegetable and you say, okay, you are not doing anything to it, and then you're sent to Kenya. So these are the things that we look out for, and then make sure that we select them. If they do not meet it up, we give them the opportunity and then guide them to look at how they expand their activities to make sure that they enter the market. Let me say it again. The enterprise audit that we conducting to assess or evaluate these SMEs are free of charge to the enterprises. They do not bear any cost on that. If there are any agency required fees for them to pay, for example, the company needs to register and get the certification of Ghana Standards Authority, we then make the referral to Ghana Standards Authority to go there to support them, and the statutory fees are paid thereof, but which is the normal thing to be done. But there are any extra costs that the SMEs will bear once we are supporting them to go onto the African continental market. So I will say that is, I want to touch on very simple thing also on what my colleague, Dr. touched on the PAPs. Very simple interpretation is that we want to make sure that payments, there's been a lot of challenges that enterprises export, and then to get their their revenue repatriation becomes a very Herculean task. And so this platform is one of the most convenient and most effective way of doing it. It's like the Continental interoperability platform. So I pay within my own currency, you get the same value over there at your end. And driving the SME agenda, we will not have to go through, because some do exports in very small quantities, which are even, should I say, less than the $10,000 value. And so the challenge of also going up to look up for the dollar or going up for the foreign exchange also has another additional cost. By this, it simplifies it up, and your payments are not going to be hitting New York and then London and then Europe before it comes in. It is direct. The global, central banks have this switch. They all switch on it and then deliver the service through their banks. And so it's a very added value to the SMEs. Let me say, or use this platform to encourage the SMEs who really wants to come on board, that our doors are open at the AFTA house there, right out in Accra here. And then my office doors are open. You can put my contact numbers to them, and then they can reach me, whatever information that they need or assistance that they need, we will walk them through. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Panford. We have a question from Patrick Boche. He says, from the answer to the question on payments, what is the current position of the ECO, which is to facilitate a common currency regime? Dr. Chidede.
Very quickly. So this is still on the agenda. If you look at the integration process of the African Union to integrate the continent, we are still aiming to reach to a monetary union where we have single currency across the continent. But as Dr. Panford rightly put it out, this is to solve some of the problems that we are facing, because across the continent at the moment, we do have about 42 currencies. And if we are aiming to boost intra-Africa trade, and one of the challenges or one of the things that has been hindering trade is issues around payments. So PAPS is meant to solve some of these problems that we do have in the AFCFTA, but the goal to achieve a common currency still stands, and we are still working towards achieving that common goal. Because it doesn't make sense that we come a customs union or a monetary union and still have so many currencies across the continent. It will be a daunting task, but it's something that we cannot shy away from. We still need to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chidede. We have another question from Charles Henry. Charles says, investment in industrialization, value addition, and general private sector developments will be key for us to succeed in AFTA. I guess this is a contribution, but he again asks us, the AFTA is a political project of the AU, and it will require African governments to deliberately take an affirmative action to position some investments that will position their countries to greatness. If the SMEs ecosystem is something that will afford that, it will be a great political move to support this ecosystem. This is another contribution. Okay. And then we have another question. Does AFTA apply to online trading platforms like eBay, Amazon, etc.? If not, how can online purchasers take advantage of it? I think this is a question for Eugenia. Hi, Eugenia.
Hi, I think it's still for probably Honorable.
Okay. Honorable Panford.
I can also add after Honorable Panford.
Okay, sure.
Hello.
Yes, Honorable, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. Just looking at, the concerns, raised up, is that, we really need to look at the whole issues very carefully in relation to how we approach that issue. So for me, I would say that, if we look at how our approach will be to that, I'll say that, we need to carefully look at it and then come back, with some of the issues in relation to that. So that's a lot of the answer.
Okay, thank you. Dr.
Hello.
Chidede. Sorry, Dr. Panford, did I stop you?
Yes, I finished.
Okay, Dr.
I've made
Chidede,
my
you can.
point, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Chidede, you can come in now.
Okay, 2 points on this one. So if you look at the AFCFTA, is mainly applicable to trade between and among African countries. So if you look at the products that are going to qualify for preferential treatment under the AFCFTA, are the products that are going to meet the rules of origin. So the products that are going to be determined as they've originated from the continent, right? Of course, this does not prohibit importing or sourcing some inputs from outside the continent. So that's one side that participants need to understand, that the products that are going to be traded, they're supposed to originate from the continent, but of course, some of the rules of origin, they allow accumulation or importing or sourcing some inputs from outside the continent. Then on the second side, so this is something that will be addressed under the protocol on digital trade, which we are yet to finalize at the moment. So this is going to govern digital trade. So trade that is going to happen online, including e-commerce, trade where issues are products or services are traded via digital platforms. So we are yet to see whether we do have African platforms where, so should we limit the products that are being traded only on the African continent, online or via African platforms? So this is something that is yet to be addressed, but I can guarantee you it's going to be addressed in the protocol on digital trade, which we are yet to finalize. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chidede. We have another question. It says, what is the process for SMEs who want to register to participate in AFCFTA? Dr. Chidede, would you like to take that?
Okay, to participate in the trading, or
to participate in the trading, not the agreement. The agreement is Ghana, so I'm guessing it's the trading.
So as we are finalizing, the documents. I don't think there's going to be any registration that is going to be required apart from meeting the rules of origin, customs procedures, and the declaration forms. I'm not sure if Dr. Panford or Eugenia have any other comments with respect to this.
Okay, Dr. Panford.
Hello, I lost you a little bit. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Panford.
I lost you a little bit, sorry.
Okay, the question, our question is, what is the process for SMEs who want to register to participate in AFCFTA trading?
To register?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Registering on the AFCFTA, to make sure that, you get, it's a very simple process. And just like I did indicate that it's a free of charge. When we do the evaluation or the audit of the enterprise, we just do the recommendation to the Ministry of Trade and Industry. There is a team that has been composed of. We have a desk in our office that will make a reference to. And then from that point, what they do is that the team, which composes of the Ministry of Trade, we have the Ministry of Trade rep, we have the GN, the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as part, we have the GRA, customs, department as part. And these team per recommendations will come to your enterprise to look at actually what your status is per the report that was presented to them. And then they go on to it. And then there's an online for the application process, which is also free of charge. But then after you've done the application, then they will have to come down and then do the validation of your enterprise, and then look at it. If you comply with all the, especially the rules of origin, the ROO, then your enterprise gets registered onto the system. And a unique code be issued by the GRA customs under the ICOMS system for the company to use it in the transaction of export or transaction on the African continental market. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Panford. I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you all. I will invite each speaker to give us their closing remarks. I will start with Eugenia.
Thank you, Bridget. My comments would be to encourage our SMEs, those who may not know a lot about the AFTA and the opportunities it presents. I think Dr. Chidede mentioned the 5 priority sectors and also indicated that these actually are linked to close to about 180 subsectors. We should, as SMEs, I think we should look out for these and then try and see what the requirements are, and then get in touch with our coordinating office for AFTA, and also reach out to GIPC. We are always linked to the AFTA office to support where it is needed. So that'd be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenia. Honorable Panford, your closing remarks. Okay, Dr. Chidede would hear from you. I think Dr. Panford will come after you.
All right, I have to go. So just quickly.
Very briefly, yes.
Thank you very much for inviting us. As the AFCFTA Secretariat, it's always an honor. We do understand that businesses feel as if we are not doing anything, and there is no communication that is being communicated directly with the private sector. So we encourage your firm to continue providing these platforms and inviting the AFCFTA Secretariat so that we can also share some of the things that we are doing, and also encouraging the coordinating the AFCFTA Coordination Office and GIPC to try as much as they can do in trying to disseminate the information to the private sector, and not only disseminating but ensuring that they communicate the message in the language that's being understood. For us as the policymakers, we somehow can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
As policymakers, sometimes we tend to speak at a high level, and then the message is not being understood by the SMEs because the language is very legalistic and very technical. So I challenge you, your firm, the coordination office and GIPC, to make sure that you disseminate the information, you bring it down to the level of the businesses. And the FCFTA is there for African businesses. And it's not only for bigger businesses. We want the smaller businesses, the SMEs, to take advantage of this, because our market is dominated by SMEs. So if SMEs do not take advantage of the AFCFTA, do not participate meaningfully in the AFCFTA, then we are leaving behind a larger group that is going to contribute to job creation, to the development of the continent, of our economies. So with those remarks, I would want to thank you once again and say, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chidede. You have to leave, right?
Yeah, I have to leave.
Okay, all right. Thank you for coming in. We are grateful.
Thank you.
We'll take Dr. Panford's comments, closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's say, it's a very good platform for us to have this conversation. And then I will say that, it's an opportunity time, it's an opportune time for our SMEs to try and leverage on this. We are working throughout the whole of the country. We have companies or enterprises from the northern region, the central belt, and the southern belt of this nation that we are working with. Any company that also thinks that, we want to join, our doors are quite open at the AFCFTA office there. And then they can reach me or reach, any of our front experts, and then they will link them up to me. Now, let me take this opportunity also to thank some serious partners. We have some other DIP development partners, the DPs, who are also supporting us. ODI has been a very good partner. And then also we have our financial institutions who are also keen on trying to partner with us to make sure that we facilitate through the financial needs of our SMEs to make sure that they leverage upon this at a very subsidized rate in terms of their borrowings to meet their export activities. I want to say this to the pharmaceutical industries. It's an anchor area that this government is looking at critical. And so we there with them. I've been to most of them, the key players within them. I've had some conversations with them, and then we are very sure that there are challenges of the double registration with the quality standards of their products, etc. We will find a bilateral way to solve these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Panford. Thank you to our panelists, all our panelists. The session has been informative and we appreciate the time spent with us. We will continue to reach out to them in our journey to taking advantage of the AFCFTA. To our audience, thank you all for your time, contributions, and questions. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns on the AFCFTA implementation. A link to the recording for this session will be shared via email, the emails you have shared with us, and on our website at www.korantenglaw.com. We look forward to having you again at our subsequent seminar. Do contact us via our website, social media, or at info@korantenglaw.com. Thank you all. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for having us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.